Video for our sponsoring has stopped, so I think we will begin our meeting. Welcome everybody all over the world. We have already a lot of participants and we have already online on Facebook the presentations live directly. So there are a lot of other participants and yeah, welcome to the moderator, Magda. I'm very happy that you're here with us to moderate with me the session. And to our speakers, and I'm quite happy that also Pavel Sedulka could manage it to join us today. So he's not only with his presentation pre-recorded, he's also live with us. And yeah, I think due to the time, we will just start the session with my friend Ali Reza Mirshahi. He's a well-known ophthalmologist from the city of Bonn, where he's head of the Dardenne Clinic. And he will talk with us about his experience with the new IOL type, with the mono EDOF, and I'm really looking forward to that. And we have also with us from Singapore, Cheryl Lee. She's a very nice lady in the ophthalmological family, and she will talk about myopia, which is, I think, a very, very important topic. And yes, then we will have the talk of Pavel about the Z8 Zima laser, about the new developments which are there in the field. And another femtolaser topic will be from Harvey Huey. And really looking forward to see him there. Unfortunately, we haven't seen us due to the pandemic over 2 years of time. Normally we see us regularly on all the conferences. So, and he's always one of the first to use new technology. So we are really looking forward to hear his presentation about the new LA femto second laser. Yeah, and then we will have a talk about yeah, what's hot in refractive surgery from Matt Young. I'm really happy to have him with us here. We are connected on Facebook since a long time, and it's really big fun to see what he's bringing on the social media, and I think it will be a very interesting presentation. And last but not least, we have Ahmed Asaf from Cairo now, so we have really a globally meeting here, and he will talk about bioptics. It's a topic which is not new, but I think it's not old-fashioned. It's always in use, and will be a very interesting presentation too. So we have time for some talk and questions after each presentation. And so I ask now Ali Reza to share the screen with us.
Hello and good afternoon from Bonn, Germany. This is Ali Reza Mirshahi speaking. Dear Detlef, dear Dr. Rao, thank you very much for inviting me, giving me the opportunity to give you this talk about my favorite topic, and this is mono EDOF. Why is it my favorite topic? It's not just a new IOL, it's not just a new kid on the block. I think this is a technology that has the potential to change our habits forever. Why am I thinking like that? I'm going to present in the next couple of minutes. These are my financial interests. So there are many concepts, but there are many IOL concepts currently available. There are monofocals, there are bifocals or trifocal IOLs. These are based on diffraction, and there is a concept, we call it EDOF, which stands for extended depth of focus. And this is actually something which is achieved by a combination of diffraction and refraction, or with playing with higher order aberrations. Also, the current concepts include different haptic designs, C-haptics, plate haptics, modified plate haptics, material, most of IOLs being from acryl, be it hydrophilic or hydrophobic, very few by silicone or PMMA. Actually, there is a controversy which is about single or three-piece IOLs, toric or non-toric to correct for astigmatism, and having a filter yellow or violet. So looking at these slides should illustrate the differences between mono, multi, and EDOF. At the top, you see the monofocals with just having one focus, with the bifocal IOLs having one focus here and one focus over there. This is a bifocal diffractive IOL. And actually the trifocal, it's quite similar, just having an additional third focus. And with the extended depth of focus, you have a higher range of area of places where you can see somehow sharp. It's not perfectly sharp, but it is somehow sharp. So these are the differences between the concepts. And when it comes to differences of the concepts, you have to be aware that there is diffraction, which is this kind of lenses with having these rings, a refraction with this kind of lens just having a higher power. There are some kind of playing, or I call it just playing, with higher order aberrations with this kind of lenses, and actually you can get a better near vision just using a pinhole with the IC8 IOL. Actually, why is it important? Because there is no effect without a side effect. So whatever you are doing and changing with the IOL optics, you're gonna have some side effect, be it glare, halo, or starburst. So the question is, how much of side effects do we tolerate? How much of side effects, how many side effects are patients tolerate before they say, doctor, I'm not happy with what you have implanted into my eye? The question is, what is a mono EDOF IOL? So is it just a new kind of IOL, or what is the definition? I would just want to mention that the mono EDOF IOL are the same and referred to as monofocal plus or enhanced monofocals. They are defined by being modified aspheric IOLs with a better intermediate visual acuity, and at the same time, no loss in distant visual acuity compared to a monofocal aspheric IOL. And this is the most important point: no additional optical or photic side effects compared to a monofocal IOL. So they're giving you the advantages of the monofocal IOL and something in addition to that. So that's why I call the monofocal plus, mono EDOF, or enhanced IOL. And this is actually not a part of the definition, but actually the price is in most cases in mid-range. The first IOL I want to talk about is the iHands. Is a single piece IOL with C haptics made of hydrophobic acrylic by Johnson & Johnson. It's actually based on the well-known Technis platform. It has a minus asphericity of approximately minus 0.27 micrometers, Z for 0. This is spheric aberration. It has a 360 sharp edge at the back side. And this is the change, and this is the difference between the iHands and the Technis. There is a higher order aspheric anterior surface that creates a continuous power progression toward the center. So the center you are, the higher the power. And it is visually indistinguishable from Technis. So if you see it on a slit lamp or even on the operation microscope, you cannot distinguish it between the both IOLs. And of course, it has the same IOL constants as Technis. So these are the pictures of Technis and iHands just beside each other. So if you look at these IOLs, you cannot distinguish between them. On the right side, you see the power, the IOL power, and you see here that with the iHands, the power is increasing toward the center, being a little bit of more power in the absolute center, and with the regular Technis, the power is absolutely equal throughout the whole IOL. Well, the company is saying that there is no spherical aberration changes. I'll come to that a little bit later. I think it's not quite true. If you look at the way of the lights with a normal Technis one-piece IOL at the top, you have with the blue to light, you have one point when you see perfectly sharp, and with having the Technis IOL, you have a higher intermediate range when you can have somehow of better vision. How much better, I'll tell you in a second. Let's speak about the other mono EDOF IOL. That's LuxSmart. It's a plate. It's a modified plate haptics made of hydrophilic acrylic by Bausch & Lomb, and it is aspheric and has a central 2 millimeter EDOF. And it's actually it's a plane with a higher order aberrations, and to be more precise, it's just the Z40 and Z60. These are this normal spheric aberration, and the higher order 6th order aberration also aspheric, also spherical aberration. I apologize. On the back side, it has a 360 sharp edge, and it is available with or without violet filter. If you look at this slide, you can see the design, the IOL, the anterior IOL design. So there is a normal IOL anterior side, there is a transition zone, and the center zone is a EDOF zone, which enables a better vision intermediate area, and it is actually given by changing the Z40 and Z60. So normal spherical aberration and the higher order spherical aberration. And at the bottom, you see, okay, if you put these two wavefronts together, you can have a little bit of top, a little bit of increased vision at the mid-range. Let's speak about the studies available, and let's talk about evidence. We want to do evidence-based medicine. To my knowledge, the best available and the highest level of evidence available paper is by Offert and collaborators, who did a comparative, prospective, multi-center randomized clinical trial implanting Technis or Eyhance IOL. They included 139 patients, 72 with Technis and 67 with Eyhance. They have a 6 months IOL, which is 6 months follow-up, which is not long enough, but it is still okay. And coming to the results, they present a similar distant performance and an improved intermediate vision. How much better? At the median of 1 Snellen line, being better with Eyhance compared to Technis. And talking about side effects, the photic phenomena were quite comparable. This is quite important because you can promise to the patient that he or she will have a bit better intermediate vision with at no additional cost. At no additional cost, meaning photic phenomena. Some graphics from the publication. On the left side, you see it with gray, the standard monofocal IOL being Technis, and with the blue columns, the new or enhanced monofocal being Eyhance. And you see, looking at the distance, the results are quite comparable, being with the monofocal being a little bit better. But at the intermediate part, particularly if you look at the unaided intermediate, which is of the highest importance to our patients, so the results are much better with the Eyhance. How much better? At the median of 1 Snellen line. On the right side, you can have a look at the defocus curve. So I'm not just presenting data from a randomized clinical trial, I'm also presenting our own data from real world in real world setting. We implanted 31 patients with bilateral Eyhance with a 4 weeks follow-up. Actually, the 1 year follow-up now starting. So in a couple of months, we'll be able to present you 1 year follow-ups. And we looked at the uncorrected intermediate, uncorrected distance, and best distance corrected visual acuities. We looked at the subjective refraction, at photic side effects. And the most important, we looked at the total patient satisfaction. These are our results. With uncorrected digital visual acuity, again, too many numbers, but please have a look at the medians. If you look bilaterally, this is of importance, this is of relevance to the patient. The median visual acuity logMAR was 0, which is equivalent to decimal 1.0, or in American 2020 British 6/6, which is quite good, I think. And if you look at the best corrected visual acuity, again 0.0 with logMAR being equivalent 6/6 in the British system and 20/20 in the American system. Now it becomes a more interesting look at the intermediate distance, and we actually, using both eyes, we saw a median visual acuity of 0.1, which is equivalent to 20/25, and this is, I think, 5/6 in the British system, which is quite impressive for us. So just being happy at the intermediate distance. Talking about the side effects, we had halos, we had glares, and we had some kind of blurriness, halos and grays, and glare being reported by about 10% of our patients. And now the most important one, what is the patient satisfaction? We asked them about the total patient satisfaction with regarding the distant vision, with 1 being excellent and 6 being completely unhappy. And in summary, we had 75% of patients said that the distant visual acuity is good or excellent. Looking at the intermediate vision, again, 70%, almost 70% said it's good or excellent. And we had one patient here and one patient here saying it was completely unsatisfactory, totally terrible. And you look at that case, what happened? Why is that single patient so unhappy? It was a refractive surprise. She ended up with -2, and with -2 you cannot have an excellent visual acuity at a distance. She's being under treatment with PRK, so we will get her back to emmetropy, and hopefully she will be happy with the results as well. Another point which is of importance, we asked patients looking at the car dashboards, and 93% said it is well visible, and when additionally illuminated, additional 7%. So almost everyone said it's well visible. Computer screen work without glasses, about a half said it's possible, and additional 36% said, okay, if I increase the font size, it's possible. And reading books without glasses, at least 25%. So if you're implanting eye hands, what can you promise to your patient? You can say you will have a very good or excellent far vision. You will be able to read your dashboard. At least you have a good chance of computer work, and a low chance of being able to read without glasses. Again, these are the results of both eye being set at emmetropy. And nowadays, I try to do the dominant eye at the far at 0, and the less dominant eye to put it at the micro monovision at -0.5. There is another study by Schmidt and Borkenstein, which I would like to talk about very, very shortly. They looked at higher order aberrations in mono-ADOF. They looked at the eye hands. They looked at Raysoft from Rayna, at LuxSmart by Bausch & and Vivity of Alcon. And they put all these in an in situ eye model using a Hartmann-Shack aberrometer. And the conclusion of them was spherical aberration of different orders are the only relevant Zernike polynomial in this new class of wavefront-shaped IOLs. So whatever the representative is telling you, the truth is that there is some higher order aberration shaping with these IOLs, whatever he is saying. And looking at the single, with the eye hands having negative spherical aberration Z for 0 and positive with the spherical aberration at the 10th order. And I don't want to bore you with all these numbers, but in a nutshell, it's saying that there is some playing with the spherical aberration Z for 0 and higher order spherical aberration. This is the science behind this class of IOLs. And I encourage you to look at this publication by Schmidt and Borkenstein. It is of great interest. So at the end of my talk, I would just say, why is it important to improve the intermediate vision? This is data given by European Union, all European Union countries, EU 28. And this is the percentage of people aged between 65 and 74. So these are our patients who never use the computer. They compared 2008 data versus 2017, so 9 years later. And you see in all countries, the percentage of people who never use the computer dropped, being in Norway at least almost 0. So it means that intermediate distance is getting more significance, it's no more important. It's not just about reading books, it's just also about reading the screen, reading the dashboard. That's why these kind of IOLs are coming at the right time. And this is my opinion why they are so successful in the market. So the question has arisen, is mono-EDOF or monofocal plus the new gold standard IOL? And I want to answer this question by defining the standard. A standard is defined as a comparatively uniform, widely accepted, and usually applied way of describing, producing, or performing something that has prevailed over other ways, or is at least considered a guideline. This is the definition of standard. So with this being the definition of the gold standard, mono-EDOF is not the gold standard yet, but it has the potential to become the gold standard. So in summary, modern IOL technologies enrich our surgical armamentarium. Mono-EDOF or monofocal plus IOLs are delivered distance visual acuity compared to aspheric IOLs, and they give us an improved intermediate vision at least one Snellen line better. There are apparently no disadvantages not known to us till now, and as a consequence, there are no additional contraindications compared to aspheric IOLs. But please be careful if you're doing it at your clinic or your hospital, in your practice. The automated refraction may be wrong. Please do subjective refraction or ask your technician to do a subjective refraction. Don't be misguided by objective refraction. Don't hand over the objective refraction to the patient. They're going to be unhappy. And I think the further exciting designs will follow. And this is why I hope that I was able to give you a little bit of my enthusiasm about this group of lenses, and we are excited to see more new exciting technologies in the future. Thanks very much for your kind attention.
Yes.
I hope I'm within my time frame.
Yeah, we have time. That's great. Magda, do you want to start the discussion?
Yes. Thank you for the very interesting results of wavefront analysis and Cernica analysis, how the patient performed after the implantation of this lens. Really very interesting. Sometimes you have patients which, in spite of some changes in macula, which the independence of the lenses in their intermediate area. Until now, in this patient, unimplanted the EDOF asymmetric lens comfort. In ACRS, I was in panel and two colleagues presented the results after implantation of enhanced lens in patient with macular pathology, drusen, and even gliosis. I would like to ask you if you have some experience of this field of these patients.
Well, I do not have a personal experience. I can have single cases who have implanted there, but I do not hesitate to implant it to eyes with mild or moderate macular degeneration, mild or moderate epiretinal gliosis, which is, I think you can do that for sure, but I don't have data which you can rely on. So I don't have a case series of 30 or like that, but what I do not see a contraindication as well, because it's giving them the same, at least the same or very comparable far vision. And I think it should enable them to see in the mid distance, which is important for these people. I don't see any contraindications, but I do not have hard data.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Great. Go on, Ahmed.
Okay. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. Do you have any experience to implant the eye-hands lens for the post-laser vision correction after myopic laser vision correction, for example? And would you expect the same amount of extended depth of focus after in eyes with previous laser vision correction for myopia? This is my first question. The second question, have you ever implanted this lens post laser vision correction for hyperopia?
I have not implanted neither in the post LASIK nor post myopic refractive treatment, nor for post hyperopic refractive treatment. And as far as I am aware, there are no data available on that. But I'm a bit hesitating in implanting that because, you know, as I said, even if they are saying there is no playing with a higher order aberration, there is a playing of the higher order aberration, as the publication by Schmidt showed. So I'm a little bit hesitating to implant these kind of lenses at for my now current knowledge into post-refractive eyes. But I'm open to other opinions or experiences.
Actually, I have implanted this lens in post-laser vision correction, and it works just fine. But the downside that these patients experience pretty good vision for distance, but we cannot expect the same extent depth of focus as with the virgin eyes, probably because of the spherical abrasion. The induced spherical abrasion after myopia on the level of the cornea will be consumed by the negative spherical abrasion on the lens. So there is no too much depth of focus with these lenses after myopic laser vision correction. I want to hear the opinion of other panelists.
Pavel Stadulka, I totally agree to what was said, that, you know, the aberrations, spherical aberration of the cornea post LASIK do play important role, and with myopic eyes we have little less effect, and with hyperopic eyes somehow too much effect and too much aberrations. But these EDOF lenses do work in these eyes, and they provide a little bit more, you know, depth of focus after myopic LASIK. We have implanted, I think, 20, 30 lenses in such eyes. And after hyperopic LASIK, I like to end up a little bit myopic and then fine-tune these eyes with another topo-guided PRK to just get rid of most of that bump created on the cornea with previous hyperopic LASIK, and it works pretty fine. And having said that, these EDOF IOLs are also quite forgiving for mild macular pathologies, as was said. So I think I totally agree on that. And Ali, I really was happy to hear that you clearly said that all of these lenses, you know, play with spherical aberrations. So all of them have a little bump in the center, bigger or smaller, more or less sophisticated, but it's kind of bump. The companies do not really like to hear about that, and then they give us, you know, the feedback with their wavefront changing or whatever. Of course, they change the wavefront, but they change it by this bump, and they change it by this spherical aberration. So yes, I totally agree on that. And also, that is important to say that these IOLs increase range of focus. They don't give the full range of focus, so we should not promise a reading, independent reading, even though some of them improve the reading significantly. But generally, we should not really promise that. But with that mini monovision, you can really, you know, get wide range of focus and very, very happy spectacle independent patients. And the last comment I would like to finish with is that these IOLs also, you know, cause some dysphotopsias, much less than diffractive technology, but also some. So we need to mention that in front of our patients, and we have to be very careful to center them long-term properly, because with the decentration and tilt, they can also cause problems.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Thank you very much for your comments on that. There is a question I see. What is about regarding mild Fuchs dystrophy? Is that a contraindication? I do not see so if there is no change in the topography, if you see there is maybe mild Fuchs dystrophy, but there is no dysfunction, I do not see a contraindication. What do you think?
Same opinion, yes. Especially most of these IOLs, there are hydrophobic, so there won't be a problem with later corneal surgery. I think there shouldn't be a problem. Also, I think also normal EDOF IOLs could be implanted in early stage of dystrophies. I think we see so many dystrophies in with our patients in the early stage, and most of them, they don't develop in the recent years. Sometimes perhaps after 10 years or so, they develop a dystrophy which is worth operating. So I think they can benefit a long time from these lenses before they get surgery. What do the others think?
Totally agree.
Yeah. There was another question or a comment about the autorefraction and automatical skiascopy, that it doesn't work. Alireza, could you mention a little bit about that, about your experience?
Yeah, the most important point is, do not allow your technicians to hand over a print of the autorefraction. This is then you are almost lost. if it is true, so he will say, okay, doctor, you did right. But if in some point it's showing a little bit of more myopic, it is at least my experience. And the patient coming say, well, your optician, your technician is saying I'm -1, and you're saying is everything right. So who is true? I would say, do not tell your technicians, do not say anything about the objective refraction. You can perform it, but just do unaided visual acuity at the distance, unaided at the intermediate segment, and then do a subjective refraction, and then let the doctor, let the surgeon talk to the patients. So this is what we do. We do not allow our technicians to say anything to them, because it's going to produce discussions which is quite unnecessary. And the second most important point is, we have many patients being referred to us just by surgery. We just see them once on the day of the surgery, being operated on. They decide for eye-hands or look smart or whatever, and we see them never again, and they go back to their referring physicians. We just put it in bold letters. This is a lens with special architecture or special technology. Please do not rely on objective refraction, and please do not send them back to me if you have an objective refraction showing you -1 or whatever. So I think there is also about educating your referring physicians, which is actually we know it from multifocals. But with multifocals now, the people know, they look at the microscope, they see the rings and say, okay, multifocal, be aware. But you cannot distinguish these lenses. But at least with eye-hands, it looks perfectly the same. And the referring physicians, most of times they might not know these kind of lenses, and send back the patient with refractive surprise. So this is my recommendation. Do not hand over objective refraction to your patient. The printout.
Quick question as well. Do you happen to know if any of the mono EDOF lenses are reimbursable anywhere in the world? I mean, if they are monofocals, yes. In theory.
In Austria, I'm aware. In Austria, the regular companies or the regular insurances are paying for them. And in Germany, at least in my the private insurances are paying for them. This is at least for eye-hands the case.
Perhaps one last question from the audience. What about the target refraction? And do you have experience with mix and match mono EDOF with normal standard monofocal?
No, I do not do that. I would not recommend that to mix and match it. What I would recommend is what I'm doing right now is if both eyes are healthy, otherwise healthy, you put the dominant eye as in metropy and the non-dominant eye at -0.5. And I have a couple of patients, quite demanding patients, just being doctors or being lawyers or being teachers, demanding people who are quite happy with that. We just recommended them, oh, no multifocals, I don't want to get you and me into trouble, let's do something else. And I said, okay, what can you do else? Being with that, we will extract that data and present it once we have a good number. But with that strategy, micro monovision plus monofocal plus, I think it's great. I'm quite happy. I'm convinced.
And quite safe.
I have experience with mixed match monofocal and adhance or mono EDOF, because some patients were already implanted with monofocal lenses and with some independence in the intermediate area, and from financial reason could not afford the multifocal and EDOF lens. So I implanted in this people the mono EDOF. The patients are very satisfied. Sometimes after I consent them, I calculate a little bit in monovision, but the patient have to know about that, not to be disappointed about the worse visual acuity for distance.
Yeah, great. So I think we have to go on. I think it was a great discussion, which shows that this is a very important topic. And I also share the opinion that these IOLs will be the future. So I hope Cheryl Lee is now with us. Cheryl, are you joining us now?
Yes, I'm very much with you.
Great. Thank you very much, especially because you interrupt your holidays for us to share your experience about treating myopia. And I hope you have a lovely holiday. And I hope it's also a nice thing for you to join us and you will have fun. I'm sure that we will have
Thank
fun
you.
with your presentation.
Yes,
So,
let's start. And I'm looking forward to the questions.
Yeah, great. And for the discussion later on.
Yes.
So
Hello, I'm Dr. Cheryl Lee. I'm the medical consultant and eye surgeon at my clinic, the Eye Clinic by Dr. Cheryl Lee. When would we start testing? For me, if you ask me, and this is very personal because it's what I've done for my own child, I've started him ever since he was able to read letters, numbers, and I guess I was fortunate because at 3.5, he could read letters. So I've checked him every 4 months since he was 3.5 years old. Most of the patients in clinic, I'd say they start at about age 4 and they come by to see me every 6 months. I would say from my experience that most of the parents would never have guessed that the child can't see clearly. And for sure, the child would not complain. So oftentimes, if we're lucky, the parents might say, oh, he's walking quite close to the TV. That's different from before. But most of the time, we'd have to have a proper check. I would say the minute a child is diagnosed with myopia, it should be treated. It's very much like I said before, the eyeball, it grows longer and longer. And that explains why the myopia gets worse and worse. It's linked with the length of the eyeball. So in other words, when myopia is diagnosed, it can only get worse because the eyeball is going to get longer if we do nothing about it. So we should address it the minute it is diagnosed. It's not all doom and gloom. There is hope. Myopia can be controlled, and you have a wide range of options. You could have myopia control glasses, atropine eye drops. There could be special contact lenses that are dual focus, daily disposable contact lenses called MySight. There's also a night contact lens called Ortho-K. And above it all, we do need to add on proper lifestyle habits. Well, the likelihood that it's due to genetics, of course it's there, but it's not very high. At best, 20%. There have been instances when parents have perfect eyesight, but their children have poor eyesight. So we would have to look at other causes for why their eyesight is poor. We can hardly blame it on entirely the genetics if we find that the child is on devices half the time and not spending time outdoors. I would say go outside, play in the sunshine, 2 hours a day. It is so important. The other thing is to minimize near work. So what is near work? So if we stretch our hand out, anything that's between the hand and the eye, that I consider as near. So that could be not just devices. It could be playing with Lego, toy cars, puzzles. So what is important, I think, or rather difficult for the parents, is to find the child things to do that doesn't involve near work. I think that as you are the first person that they would see with an eye problem, you should take every opportunity that you have to talk about myopia. Oftentimes, I would say, even if the father comes in to buy a pair of sunglasses, it might be, well, actually quite good to just offer and say, oh, if you have a bit of time, could we just have a check of your child's vision? Oh, is he already 5? Well, I think that's a perfect time to start. And if the child should be diagnosed with myopia, I think we've all got to be alert and say, hey, the chance of a 5-year-old with myopia getting increasing problems with the myopia, I mean, it's so extremely high that we mustn't ignore it. One of the things I would advise is never to say, oh, let's just wait a year and see if the myopia gets worse, because it's bound to get worse. Don't forget that myopia is progressive. That means it can only get worse if we don't control it. And the other thing is that it's irreversible, which means that we cannot make it better. We can only stop it at where we find it. I think really it sounds like it's been repeated 100 times, education. So fortunately for us, there have been learning platforms. Many companies, one of which is Cooper Vision, have had ways, either by videos, by plenary sessions, to teach us on the different ways of controlling myopia. The other one that I've done is to give talks to the Optometry Association. And if you would not now with this COVID that we've not had any face-to-face meetings, I would say go to the website, my website, the Eye Clinic by Dr. Cheryl Lee on myopia control, because there you would have an unbiased opinion to the different forms of myopia control. And once you know what exists out there, what is available to the patient, you would be much more confident with bringing up the topic of myopia control. You should never worry about losing business, because these myopic kids will always need glasses, or they would need contact lenses. And many optometrists that I know are already prescribing MiSight or the night contact lens, the Ortho K. So I think we're in this together to not just help the child see clearly, but also to stop the myopia from progressing. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Cheryl Lee, and my eye practice is based in Singapore. I don't know whether I should be proud or not that I'm giving this talk on myopia control, but I'd say we have a lot of experience in it because I come from a country of many firsts. We have the first Formula One night race, we once had the highest flyer in the world, and we had the first night zoo. We are also #1 with the highest rate of myopia in the world. And even our kids, our adults, have such a high rate of high myopia. So this is, we're talking about more than 6 diopters. When I first started my career, myopia control was not even heard of. I spent more than 10 years in England on a pediatric fellowship, cataract and retinal surgeries, ocular plastics. I left to go to Miami to learn more about medical retina and uveitis. I was in Paris for inflammatory eye disease. And after all that, I went back to Singapore, and I've been there for about 15 years. And when I returned to Singapore, yes, I started my practice doing all these specialties that I was trained in. But as the years went by, I'm finding that I'm doing much more work that is linked to lifestyle problems, myopia control, dry eyes, and lots of other There is also another reason for my interest and passion in myopia control. This all started 8 years ago when Mark was born, and my fear in Singapore, 3 out of 10 children at the age of 7 wears glasses, and 8 out of 10 at 16 years old. This is clearly a childhood disease which has to be controlled as soon as they are born, with this big fear that it escalates quickly and it's irreversible. Myopia starts as a childhood disease, but it is a continuum. It continues with first escalating myopia, and of course at a point it stabilizes, and then the economic cost of glasses, contact lenses, complications of contact lenses, then there's refractive surgery, and there is also an earlier onset of cataracts and a higher percentage of patients with glaucoma, retinal detachments, myopic maculopathy linked to myopia. So it's pretty much an endless disease. If we're able to keep the level of myopia down, we're able to reduce the complications of retinal detachments, cataracts, myopic maculopathy. I'm not saying that we will have patients or we will not have anyone with myopia. I'm saying that we should keep the myopia as low as possible. If we look at a child with myopia of -3, and if it increases to -6, the risk of myopic maculopathy increases by 20 times and retinal detachments by 7 times. So the lower we keep the myopia, the lower the risk of blindness. And knowing this, it's rather sad in clinic. Often I take the opportunistic chance to talk to parents about myopia control in children. And what do the parents say to me? Myopia, we all wear glasses, so our children will wear glasses anyways. So it's really very much to me like, the child at McDonald's who's clearly not very thin, and neither is the father or the mother, and they blame that on genetics. The reasons are a little bit more aesthetic. Yeah, good idea. Let's get the myopia controlled. I just don't want the glasses to get thicker. Some say there's nothing we can do about it anyway. Others say, it's okay. I'll wait till she's older and then she can have LASIK. Which is very much along the same line as my child already wears glasses, so why bother to control the myopia? Some say, well, an increase is it's not so much anyway, 100 degrees, which is pretty much -1 diopter. But if you think about it, if we miss a child at 8 years old, and statistically they increase by 1 diopter per year, then by 13, they would be -5. When you say that to the parents, then they realize the implication. 7, also very common, many are unaware that myopia leads to a higher chance of blindness. As opticians, optometrists, and ophthalmologists, general practitioners, we can do a lot to reduce myopia increase because it is largely a lifestyle disease and education is so much needed. If you remember when we were young, our parents had to scream and shout to get us home for dinner. Now, we can't get the kids to go out because there's no Wi-Fi outdoors, so they all want to be indoors. So this lack of outdoor time, too much of near work, has been one of the biggest reasons for why the rate of myopia is increasing all around the world. There was even a study years back that showed a parallel increase of myopia with the sale of the iPhone. So all this is causing a normal length eye to keep growing longer and longer, and that leads to myopia. in Singapore, we have even local celebrities trying to educate the population, largely because their myopia is so high, and some have had retinal detachments, glaucomas. So we have what we call vision ambassadors. Why did I start the myopia clinic as a subspecialty within my practice? One day on the radio, I heard that the obesity rate in Singapore was 3 out of 10. But yet more people knew that Coca-Cola was bad for them. In a country where the myopia chance was 8 out of 10, there were still so few people that were aware that myopia can be controlled, that myopia causes blindness. And many people had done poor research and were so terrified of the treatment, but they never asked what the risks were of increasing myopia. They were more worried about the risks of an eye drop. People also didn't realize that time was of essence and that this disease was irreversible. I also wanted to have a practice that could offer to the children every research-proven myopia control option that exists, be it atropine eye drops, orthokeratology, special myopia control reading glasses, or daily disposable contact lenses like MySight. In Singapore, we have the option of commercially prepared atropine at varied doses. So I start off at 0.01%. The next dose that is available is 0.025, and then there's 0.05. It increases to 0.125, and then the highest percentage is 1%. Me, I've never had to use 1% at all, and I even use very rarely 0.125%. For me, it does not make sense at all to use a higher dosage of atropine because it makes the pupil dilate, and these children are needing reading glasses. And also it makes them very sensitive to the sunshine, which means that they do not enjoy going outdoors. So all this goes against my lifestyle change of them playing outdoors in order to control their myopia. But I understand that myopia control is very territorial. So if the practitioner is only able to offer atropine and not any other modes of myopia control, then they feel that the only option they have is to increase the dosage of atropine. Also, I feel that when I talk to these children who come to me as a second or third opinion, that they have such poor lifestyle habits that really any dose of atropine or any usage of orthokeratology would not make any difference in their escalation of myopia. In many countries where atropine is not readily available, orthokeratology is more popular. These are lenses that are worn during the night when the child sleeps, and it's removed on awakening with good vision during the day. Which option to choose? Myopia control glasses, atropine, MySight, orthokeratology, all that is really a separate talk. It takes up a fair amount of time. Regardless of the option that is chosen, I would say the lifestyle changes are so super important. I've become like a marriage counselor, a sports counselor. During COVID, I've become a teacher counselor. There's so many things we need to talk about in terms of controlling the myopia. You'd have to be sincerely interested in the child to know what his lifestyle is, what he does after school, what does he do for fun, when does he take breaks from the computer, whether he reads in the dark. There's so many little things that you would have to pay attention to, which is very different from how a usual eye clinic is run. Myopia control is a responsibility of all opticians, optometrists, and ophthalmologists. Why? Because it can be controlled. And wouldn't we feel regret? As we know that time is of essence, we pick it up early, we stop it from happening or increasing, and we can make a difference to a person. It's the one specialty in ophthalmology that we're working at preventative medicine, not just treating a problem. Myopia is an irreversible disease. The earlier we get on with it, the better our results. And we also know that the treatment that we give to the child outweighs the risks of myopia. Many patients, many doctors don't like me saying this, but myopia is a disease because it leads to blindness. So what that means for us is that when we see an adult, a teenager, a grandfather, a grandmother in the clinic, it gives us the opportunity to bring up the topic of myopia control. I see every kid from 4 years old. It's a fantastic chance because I either pick up a child who still has perfect sight, and it gives me the opportunity to say to the parents, your child needs to spend 2 hours outdoors in the sunshine every day, and that can actually stop the myopia from happening. Or on the other hand, I could see a 4-year-old who already has bad habits and has myopia, and in which case I would have to say, oh, what you do need to know is that you need to take an eye break every 20 minutes, a break from anything that is near. So Lego is not any better than an iPad. A book is not better than an iPad. So this is a group of parents who are unaware of what good eye habits are and what bad eye habits are. With these kids, that outdoor sunshine time is actually not as important as the child who still has perfect vision. I hope this presentation has sparked your interest in myopia control, and for all of us to know that it is our responsibility to practice preventative medicine. It's not a lot of time. This is just the tip of the iceberg of myopia control. But if you do want to hear or learn more about tips on myopia control, what to do in the clinic, updates on research, the activities and plans I have for the kids. So I'm very practical with the kids. I give them free audiobooks. I line up free outdoor activities with the kids. Something that's not too complicated, things that they can do after school, and of course more exciting things to do during the holidays. I have projects on creating toys for kids that are good for the eyes. All that I'll try to update on the eye clinic website. So if you ever have the time, please check it out and see how you could implement myopia control at your practice.
Yes. Cheryl, can you please put on your voice now?
Yes, hello.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think there are a lot of questions. Magda, you want to start the questioning?
Yes, I would like.
Hello.
In the past, I prescribed the patients with the children with myopia up to 5 diopters, the rigid contact lenses, to slow down the progression of the myopia. The results were very good. Now I work on the clinical study with Professor Feinbaum. The Israel company feed lens together with him, developed a multifocal soft IOL. The name of the lens is MyoLens, for the children to stop or to slow down the progression of the myopia. But it is in Germany. I don't know if other colleagues would agree. The problem of myopia is not so big.
Carol?
I can't.
Yeah.
Hello?
Very
Yeah, we can
difficult
hear
to
you.
convince the parents that the children wear the contact lenses. I read already the comment of Professor Feinbaum. He meant that the atropine works only in patients with low myopia.
Carol?
Yes, can you hear me? Where the
Yeah, we
question
can,
is whether
we can
Yeah,
also hear
and that's-
the background. Could you move to a little bit more silent area, please?
Okay.
Okay, so the question for one of your questions was atropine only works for low myopia. Am I correct?
Yes, correct. And if you have experience with the multifocal IOLs of the patients with high myopia, children with high myopia.
Yes. It's also not just the level of myopia, it's also the age at which they're diagnosed with myopia. So if you have a child who has a very big jump in myopia from a very young age, say for example, they're 4 years old, already at -2, -3, and of course the first thing to do is to really go through the habits of the child. This is extremely important. So this is going through what they do at home every day. If they spend half their time on an iPad or a phone, then this is the first thing that we need to control. And that's the first thing about myopia control. It's not about just what drops we use, what contact lens, what glasses. Once you've eradicated that, and you have to be very practical. So I offer them things like free audiobooks. I give them real practical options. You know, if you're a mom, you realize that that's what you need. You know, and if you're a working mom, even more. That you need to tell your child, okay, 1 hour you listen to an audiobook. The next hour you go play tennis. It's got to be very specific. Then after that comes whatever else that you decide to choose, whether it's atropine or ortho-K. I would do that for any child, any option that they choose for 2 months after they've changed their habits. And I will say that really, regardless of option, if the lifestyle changes, the control of myopia is very, very good. And I'm very tough. So I'm not talking about just stopping the progression of myopia, because many people say if you use atropine or ortho-K, it stops or it reduces the progression of myopia by 50%. That means if normally you increase by 1 diopter, in 1 year you increase by 0.5. Me, I'm really, really quite tough. So when I see these kids, I actually expect the myopia to stop increasing. So I don't think it's purely the level of myopia, or the age, but first change the lifestyle, and then we decide on what is the best option.
Any other questions in the moment? There was a question from the audience regarding the percentage of patients, pediatric patients, that use the MySight glasses and what are on OK.
Yes. So yes. So I have to tell you that I come from a country that there's just so much myopia, and believe me, I don't even work in a government hospital. I work in a private practice, and I'm one doctor, right? And we see so many every day, but again, it's a different group of patients. These are patients with parents who are clearly very involved in the child's myopia control. Most patients, I would say, would start off, I always tell the parents, whatever option you choose today doesn't really matter, but we need to choose an option. Most patients would choose atropine and myopia control glasses. So as you know, there are a few brands that do it. For example, Zeiss, there's Essilor, there is Hoya Smart. Very hard. We've never had any face-to-face, any randomized controlled trial to prove that one is better than the other. And so we are doing our own trials because it's very hard to get these commercial companies to compete against one another for a better result. And then, of course, we have a group of patients who use MySight. I use MySight sometimes interchangeably. So what that means is the children wear glasses on some days, the myopia control glasses on some days. And then when they do sports, they wear the MySight. I find in my hands that MySight does not control the myopia adequately, not good enough, unless it's used with atropine eye drops. And of course, also keratology is very popular, especially with children who love sports like swimming or water polo, the kids who don't want to wear glasses at all. So we get really a good combination of all of them.
Yeah, great. I think we could talk and talk, but a little bit now. But I think I was on your homepage before this meeting here, and I think we can learn a lot on your homepage about information, how we can inform our patients better, and also learn about the treatment of myopia treatment. So that's yeah. Thank you very much for joining us, and perhaps you can join us a little bit longer. But I also understand
yes, I will.
you want to go to your family and enjoy the beach life in France. Due to the time, I think we have to go on now with the third presentation. And Harway, are you there? I think it's Harway now who will talk about the new femtosecond laser.
Hi. Thank you, Detlef, for the opportunity to introduce the Ally system. I'll share my screen now. Can you see it?
Yes, perfect.
All right. So we'll be talking about the new Ally femtosecond laser system, which we have been doing some research on. And I do receive funding from LENSAR for this research. The Ally Adaptive Cataract Treatment System is essentially a merger of a upgraded, or we can say a spruced up LENSAR flax laser combined with the Ortley Pharos phaco-vitrectomy machine. So it's hard to believe that femtosecond lasers for cataract surgery have been with us for a decade now. And the LENSAR engineers have been hard at work, and they've been able to combine the two systems. And interestingly, combine the two systems into a smaller machine. So there's a smaller footprint, which is about 2/3 the size of the original LENSAR system, which is quite good if you have a tight operating room. And they've also managed to integrate the control for both the femto system and the phaco system into a single foot pedal. So the whole objective of this new combined system is to improve efficiency, safety, and outcomes for patients undergoing cataract surgery. So the procedure times are a lot faster, and we'll discuss that in a little more detail. But at the same time, we also retain some of the features that make it very nice to use the LENSAR system. One of them is we're able to use the high resolution imaging that can automatically be used to plan the cataract treatment. And secondly, the streamline software optimizes astigmatism management by helping us identify the correct axis for toric IOLs, as well as performing very accurate arcuate incisions to reduce corneal astigmatism. So how does the Ally system make the procedure faster? There are several ways. With the original LENSAR system, we had a single high-resolution camera that rotated and scanned different axes of the anterior segment and the lens. With the Ally system, there are actually now, as you can see here, 6 cameras that simultaneously scan the anterior segment and generate the measurements and images to help us plan the treatment with the femtosecond laser. So this greatly shortens the time for the laser procedure. The laser in the Ally system is also significantly faster than the original laser on the LENSAR system. For treating the cornea, it's about 4 times faster than the original LENSAR system. And for treating the lens, it's about twice as fast. So together, we're able to shorten the laser treatment time. And I find this is of a great use, especially when you have patients who are uncooperative or they move around so they can actually get undocked. Or in Asia, we have a lot of patients with small palpebral fissures. So sometimes the PID, the patient interface device, doesn't attach very well. But with the Ally system, we can do the procedure much faster. So the chances of accidental redocking are much less. Another interesting feature of the Ally system is an increased flexibility in patient positioning. So you can position the patient anywhere along this 240-degree arc. And this allows you to maximize the space in your operating room and increase the surgical workflow. So in our original workflow, we would transfer the patient from the preoperative area to the area where we had the femtosecond laser. We would then perform the laser treatment and then transfer the patient not too far away, but to the area where we're going to perform the phaco emulsification. And then at this point, we would then do the aseptic or sterile preparation of the patient's eye, put on the drape, and then proceed with phaco emulsification. With the Ally system, it's a one-stop shop. We bring the patient to the area where they're going to have the surgery. We do the sterile preparation, and then very rapidly we do the femtosecond treatment, and then we do the phaco without the patient moving anymore. So this is a much better or a much more efficient workflow than with the older system. This video will highlight how the workflow increases. So here on the left, we can see the surgery with the Ally system. And on the right, you can see the surgery with the original LENSAR system. So with the Ally system, as you can see, the first thing we do is we already do the sterile preparation, and you can already put on the surgical drape. And then you can bring the patient over to the Ally laser and position the patient to ready them for docking and the laser procedure. The same is true with the LENSAR system, except that we can do this in a non-sterile fashion because the laser treatment is non-invasive. So there's no chance of infection at this point. So we can do it without being sterilized. So let's go back now to the left image, the Ally system. So when the surgeon goes into the room, you can already put on your surgical gown, and then you can put on your sterile gloves. So in my practice, I I usually use 2 gloves. The green one is just to protect my hands, so I don't have to keep putting disinfectant on my hands. And then the yellow one is the actual sterile glove. And this double protection also is useful when we treat patients with uveitis of, when we do surgery on patients with uveitis where there may be unknown pathogens. So as you can see with the Ally system, one difference is that the docking control is actually on top of the laser head. Unlike with the Ally system, it's below. So this is just maybe one little change that's significant. But the docking process is essentially the same as between the 2 systems. Now, once we dock the patient, we can then activate the scanning. And this is where you see a huge difference because the scanning is very, very quick with the Ally system. With the 6 cameras, within a few seconds, you can already generate your 6 scans, and the software will then plan the surgery. Whereas with the original system, the camera uses a significant amount of time rotating from one axis to the other. So this consumes a lot of the time and sometimes induces some discomfort on the patient. So you can also see now here on the Ally video on the left, it's now a colored image. It's no longer black and white, which is quite nice. And you can see the laser firing very quickly to do the laser lens fragmentation here on the left. And following that, we can do the clear corneal incisions also very quickly. We should be able to use the cyclotorsion compensation with the Ally system, and we can also do all of the functions for astigmatic correction using the Ally system. But in this video here, you can see the clear corneal incision being made very quickly using the Ally system, and then you can see the paracentesis also being made very quickly using the Ally system. So at this point, we're finished with the surgery. And one of the amazing things I discovered is that instead of transferring the patient somewhere else, you can just put on the, you can swing back the laser head and then bring in your surgical microscope. You don't have to even, nobody has to move here. You don't have to get up from your chair, nor does the patient have to move anywhere. The patient's eye is already sterile, so we can already apply the lid retractors and proceed with the surgery. Here on the right, you can see that after we've done the femto laser procedure, we now actually have to move the patient to another part of the room. And then at this point, we have to sterilize the patient's eye, then apply the surgical drape, move in the surgical microscope into the position, and then move in the phacoemulsification machine. So this is a part which is not very efficient with the current system, which the Ally system has addressed. We can do all of this much more efficiently with the combined machine. So let's move on. This is some of our initial clinical experiences. And here we compare the cohort of patients that underwent the original GEN system flax treatment. And then you can see here on the third column, the results using the Ally system. This is not a randomized study. It's just 2 cohorts of patients that underwent surgery in the same operating room with the same nursing staff within the same 1 or 2 months, essentially. So the age of these 2 groups is essentially the same. And you can see that once you do the use the Ally system, your total procedural time for the femtosecond laser usually will be less than 2 minutes. but with the original Gen system, it's more than 2 minutes. So there's a significant difference. There's also virtually no transition time from a laser to the start of phacoemulsification. You simply have to retract the laser head, apply your lid retractors, and then you can proceed to the phacoemulsification. And we also saw that the total phaco OR time was a little bit shorter using the Ally system. So if we total the time savings from all of these steps, it's roughly around 9 minutes per case. So basically, your turnaround time, you can cut this down by 9 minutes using the Ally system compared to the Gen system. And in a busy OR day where you have a lot of patients, that 9 minutes is very important because that's usually close to about the amount of time it takes for you to do one cataract surgery. So the savings piles up throughout the day as you do more cases. So the Ally system also features the same cataract density grading that we have on the original LENSAR system. And this automated cataract density grading also identifies the location of the thick nucleus, the hard nucleus, the different lens layers, and the automated software will then choose the treatment algorithm and apply that treatment algorithm to the nucleus itself. So this optimization of the laser treatment parameters decreases the amount of energy, lessens the amount of unnecessary laser energy use, and at the same time does do a lot of lens softening, lens fragmentation to aid the surgeon in doing better surgery. We also found very pleasantly that the Ally system laser treatment, which is faster, also produces these corneal incisions that are very easy to open, much easier than with the original laser system. So here you can see us using a spatula to enter the anterior chamber and putting viscoelastic through the paracentesis. And then we can use a regular Sinskey hook or cyclodialysis spatula to effortlessly open the clear corneal incision. We've also shown that these 3-plane laser cut clear corneal incisions tend to seal better without the need for hydration compared to your standard keratome incisions. So it's a good marriage. So the Ally system is married to the Wortley phacoemulsification machine. This is essentially the Pharos system. And I think for those of you who use the Pharos machine, you found it to be a very robust, reliable system that gives you good chamber stability and very efficient phacoemulsification. So in summary, the Ally adaptive cataract treatment system combines a femtosecond laser and the phaco machine into a nice compact system. This gives a lot of time efficiency because the docking is faster, image acquisition time is shorter, laser treatment time is shorter, and it's much easier to open the corneal wounds. The surgical workflow is greatly improved by eliminating the need for the patient to transfer from one machine to the other. And the automated treatment planning software optimizes laser application. So we find that the Ally system is a very promising machine that will increase the safety and effectiveness of the FLACS procedure. So thank you very much for your kind attention. science fiction yesterday is fast becoming scientific fact today.
Yes, thank you very much, Harvey. We have a little bit of time problem because our presentations were so long and the discussion so great that I think if there aren't questions from the audience, are there questions from the panel in the moment regarding Harvey's presentation? I think the time question is very important because I think the cases of suction loss during the procedure will decrease extremely, and this is for really also a benefit for the patient, because if you have to redock a patient, these are the patients that often get red eyes and some bleeding in the conjunctiva, which is the thing they really don't like, and I think the time benefit is great. Thank you.
Yes, the suction on the ally system is also stronger. So we have not had a patient where we were not able to successfully dock and complete the laser procedure.
Interesting, yes.
I have the privilege to work with Kranova femtomatrix laser system, and I am happy to hear that, you know, this is a little bit similar concept in a way that this laser combines with the phaco machine, very much like Kranova do it also. The Kranova system also multiplies the laser beam, and that, you know, is able to significantly shorten the procedure, and it combines it with robotic arms. So I think we are going to see really significant innovations in laser cataract surgery in coming years.
Great. So it was just a nice comment, and you can just go on with your presentation. Sorry, I did the mistake. I skipped a little bit your presentation, Harvey's, but perhaps you can start and share your screen with us and give us information about the Lima system now.
So let's run it from your system. I think I submitted it. Can we run it from the system?
Yeah, it will start.
Hello. Today I am going to talk about refractive lenticle extraction by a new laser Z8. It is difficult to find a proper name for this procedure. For a long time, that was a proprietary feature of Zeiss lasers. But there are new companies out there with this procedure, and we have several names which are in use. Relax refractive lenticle extraction was one of the earliest. Then the marketing strategy leaned towards SMILE, small incision lenticle extraction. But each company is now like attempting to name the procedure by its proprietary company name. E.g., Zimmer Company came with clear corneal lenticle extraction for advanced refractive correction. So I believe we as ophthalmologists should pursue the proper name of this procedure, and let's use the simplest thing, lenticle extraction or LASIK lenticle extraction, because this procedure, it's LASIK, it's laser in situ keratomileusis. Anyhow, the marketing efforts were trying to really separate this SMILE method from LASIK, but it's a new way of LASIK. I think maybe also a very nice name would be SMILE lenticle extraction, but SMILE is a proprietary company name. So I think either we use lenticle extraction or LASIK lenticle extraction in the future. Today, I'm going to talk about Swiss laser Z8, which recently came with this option of lenticle extraction. This laser is truly mobile, compact, and versatile, and you can perform corneal surgery and cataract surgery on this laser. What also sets it apart from the competition, it's a very high repetition rate in range of megahertz, very low pulse energy in range of nanojoules, and also an option of intraoperative OCT. So let's look up close at lenticle extraction with Z8 laser. There is a possibility of wide range of optical corrections, starting at 0.5 diopters up to -10, cylinders up to +5. And this laser has articulated arm with scanning lens very close to the eye in this handpiece. There is a high numerical aperture, which enables the technology to be really close to the eye, and it features a flat interface. But it's also very interesting that you can program 2 incisions, and one of these incisions can lead to that anterior plane, to the posterior plane, leading with the other incision. There are venting channels for gas bubbles, and there is currently longer suction time compared to VisuMax laser, but according some literature, there should be a smoother interface compared to the other lasers in place. So let's have a look at the video of our first case with this laser. I'm going to demonstrate unique features, which are mainly the handheld handpiece on articulated arm with flat interface. So the surgeon docks this handpiece on patient eye without moving with the patient, rather manipulating the laser handpiece itself. It's quite straightforward. And then you center and compensate for cyclotorsion according to the marks on the cornea or according to the data from Galilei device, and the laser runs the procedure, cutting both planes and incisions. Then we return the handpiece to the nurse, and she will get it ready for the other eye or for the other patient while we can perform the lenticle extraction. You enter to the anterior and posterior planes. The separation is quite straightforward. You see that I use one hand technique here. I don't hold the eye, and the eye follows a little bit the movements of the instrument, and the extraction of lenticle is pretty easy for an experienced surgeon. I just show the detail of the lenticle, and what I like to combine this procedure with cross-linking. We call it LASIK extra or SMILE extra. So you see in here riboflavin penetration into this corneal pocket, and then we continue illuminating cornea with UVA light to stabilize the outcome of refractive procedure, which all the time somehow can lower the stability of cornea, because we are extracting tissue with the cornea according to the optical zone and amount of correction. So let's have a look at our first clinical results on our first 30 eyes. We have a follow-up of 3 months on each of the following slides. Refraction. This group was myopic group with mean refraction minus 6.7 spherical equivalent. And we see that even these were our first eyes. We hit the target pretty accurately with mean 0.01 diopter residual myopia at 3 months follow-up. One eye has been excluded because it required PRK. We were about -1 diopter spherical equivalent of the target with this eye. Cylinder. This group did not really have eyes with high cylinder. You see the standard deviation, and the mean was about 0.62 diopters of cylinder, which was lowered to 0.35. So pretty much very low cylinder at the beginning and also at the end of this procedure. Uncorrected visual acuity, 1.3 logmar, which you would expect at this highly myopic group, and that improved to 0.1 logmar at 3 months. And distance corrected visual acuity was 0 before the surgery and 0.02 at 3 months. So we are also doing pretty well in terms of safety here. You see at 1 week we are still not having the full recovery of visual acuity. So with this procedure, we still need a little longer visual recovery compared to LASIK. I would like to share one case report here with you, which was our early case, 26-year-old man, and I have visual acuity not noted in a decimal here because there is still a lot of people out there who prefers to use this traditional visual acuity description. So this man was minus 6.5 in spherical equivalent before the surgery. And you see that we achieved 0 refraction and 1-0 visual acuity, 1 week and 3 months follow-up. You seen that it's not exactly always the case that we hit emmetropia. I provided the statistics of our results, but I think overall the results are very nice for this new laser. To come to a conclusion, I think it's very good. We have more options for lenticle extraction with more lasers available. VisuMax came out recently with the latest version, VisuMax 800. We have Z8 laser from Zimmer and Atos from Schwind. I think there is still a need for more clinical cases with the new lasers to compare with the established high quality level of SMILE or lenticle extraction. But I would like to conclude once again with what I have started. Let's do not get trapped into this commercial terminology, please, because it really creates confusion. And I think at the end of the day, it just creates more harm to everyone, to companies, to us ophthalmologists, and to patients as well, and try to keep a clear medical terminology in refractive surgery. I would like to finish with this picture from our OR with Zimmer Z8 laser in the middle and with Schwind laser on the left-hand side and with the VisuMax laser on the right-hand side. And I am fortunate to have all this technology at our disposal so I can choose the best laser for the given patient, and that feels really good. I would like to wish you a successful Congress, a great day, and thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you, Pavel. Great presentation. Could you just focus once again on the nomenclature on your last slide regarding the name for the procedures? What do you exactly mean with that?
I think we all probably commonly name this procedure SMILE or relax SMILE, correct?
Yes.
But we learned that SMILE is a proprietary name from Zeiss, and Zeiss kind of said to the other companies that they cannot name this procedure done by their laser with SMILE. And that creates a lot of confusion. And now the companies come with their own names. There is Clear, there is Silk, there is other names. And I think it is a repeated history. It was the same with Intralace. Femtosecond laser used to be named Intralace when there was the only laser performing all laser LASIK. So I think we really need to, make one nomenclature which is easy to understand to everyone, for the patients primarily, to us as surgeons and to the companies. And I think that should be lenticle extraction. And I truly believe, and I'm convinced that lenticle extraction is it's the next stage of LASIK. Some people call it keyhole LASIK, flapless LASIK. So LASIK lenticle extraction is the best wording for me. Maybe 3 words is even too much. We should only have 2, lenticle extraction. And as ACOS president, I issued an initiative to start to find a consensus which name we should propose. I will also talk to people in ESCRS, so we hopefully can unite unify together and, you know, get one name for this procedure, which would be commonly used in the daily life, in the literature as well.
Only a short
Yes.
question, Pavel. Do you routinely combine the lenticle extraction? You see, I already use your new nomenclature with in the patients of low myopia. And could you very shortly describe the CXL procedure? How is the time of application of riboflavin? How long you radiate this cross-linking?
Okay, so you are talking about that lenticle extraction extra with
because you showed that you combine this with cross-linking.
Yeah, we do it. You know, yeah, we do it often
in low myopia.
I like to do it, and basically there are two reasons to do that. Number one, to whenever we really are afraid about the stability of given cornea, and we really, you know, try to convince the patient, please do it, because we feel this is really, really safer. And the second reason is we just feel free to do it on every single case to lower the risk of corneal changes long-term. Because any laser refractive procedure either takes out the lenticle or ablates, polishes the cornea, and, you know, we remove the tissue. So I think if we can at the same time stabilize the cornea, it makes sense to me. So we soak the cornea with riboflavin. That takes a few minutes. We do it within a minute, actually. We have a protocol which still are in development. And then the typical irradiation is 1.5 minutes with 30 milliwatts, and that's it. So we try to be somewhere in the middle, a little bit more conservative than Dresden protocol. We don't really want to get progressive change in the cornea, but we want to make we want to have a higher chance to really have a stable cornea long term. And again, I think it makes a lot of sense to me. We have a lot of data, and it's kind of ready for publication.
Thank you.
Great. I think we have to go on now with the next presenter. So Matt, I think it's you. Could you share your screen with us now?
Absolutely. Thank you, Detlef. All right, everyone can see, I suppose. I'm Matt Young, CEO of Media Mice, and I'm based here in Da Nang, Vietnam. It has been a really sweltering weekend, everybody, but not quite as hot as the tip of this dragon bridge here in Da Nang. It's appropriate because this evening here from Da Nang tonight, we're going to be talking about what is hot in refractive surgery, a media point of view, and that's my company, Media Mice. So again, a media point of view.
We do have.
Just a moment. Okay, so these are my financial disclosures for our clients who are in the refractive space. Recently, I was at APA CRS Seoul, just happened a week or two ago, and we partnered with Johnson & Johnson Vision to explore innovations directly at their booth in Seoul, where we launched Mice live stream in the process. Now, we were essentially walking around the booth live with all these video cameras and exploring elements in part about refractive cataract surgery. And while playing host, I found some really interesting, simple tools that Johnson & Johnson was using to explain reading distance on mobile devices using their latest lens technology. So for example, I learned that Asians typically read their mobile devices a bit closer because of the intricacies of language characters. And I'm just going to play a little bit of that video for you now.
We do have some tools to actually demonstrate and maybe show you how this 33 centimeters is like. Is that okay?
Yeah, bring it on over.
All right, maybe I'll pass it to our colleague Eunice.
Okay.
Hello.
Well, hi there.
Hi. So please hold this
phone
Okay,
as if you're holding your textbook, text
Okay.
message.
Okay.
Okay, so at around 33 centimeters,
Okay.
where our technology provides you near vision.
Okay.
So that's at 33 centimeters compared to the old technologies where they normally start your vision from 43
that's
centimeters
a little
onwards.
far for me.
Yes, so you just have to really find a very clear vision where it can be achieved for your,
Much
but
more
the
comfortable.
digitalized lifestyle, 33 centimeters is a little bit more closer, which is more suitable for your modernized life. So
Such a clever way to demonstrate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Charmaine.
Yep. I also have another tool actually. Can I show you?
Oh, okay. Now
Yeah.
it's your turn. Sure.
Yeah. So over here I have a pair of glasses, and at the side, yep, I have a laser viewfinder
Ooh,
attached. So
A laser viewfinder that's attached to the glasses.
yep.
I can't imagine what this does.
So let me put this on.
Okay.
You can see it's aligned to my eyes.
Okay, I see that.
Yep, it's aligned to my eyes. And now let me just measure what is my reading distance, my mobile phone distance.
Okay. So I can see a little laser light beam. It almost looks like a little sniper laser that's focusing on your phone. And what is that doing?
So once I put it on my phone, it will be able to measure the holding distance.
You just keep doing that.
The holding distance from my eyes to the phone.
Okay.
And let's see, what is the number over here, Matt?
Right here on this?
Yep. It's 34.
0.346?
Yep. So it's actually 34 centimeters. So that
Oh.
is my reading distance using a mobile phone.
That's pretty close to that 33 centimeters, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Very
I think
close.
it redefines the reading of near,
Okay.
which usually is being measured at 40 centimeters.
Okay.
And now, we have to probably measure it at a
Okay, so as you can see there, that was explaining some of the benefits of the Synergy lens, which really is an EDOF and multifocal blended lens to achieve intermediate distance and near vision. Lots of other types of lens in the presbyopia correcting space, trifocals, multifocals, but each of these have some disadvantages as well. The light adjustable lens, of course, is out there, recently approved, but really accommodating IOLs still may be part of the holy grail that we're looking to achieve. So at that same meeting, the APA-CRS, Dr. Pham Han Bor of Tan Tock Seng Hospital, he was a KOL for Johnson & Johnson, but he's also was basically saying that accommodating IOLs, replacing natural selection, natural accommodation, again, is the true holy grail. So if we can remember back, Crystal Lens IOL was the first accommodating IOL, the first FDA approved such IOL. But I remember at the time there was also some controversy as to whether it really did accommodate, so to speak, whether it did move in the eye. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce here Asmin Nasseri, who was present at the recent iCelerator meeting that I was at the ASCRS. He was introducing a new potential solution, which is another accommodating IOL.
Developed the Opera accommodating intraocular lens. It's a ciliary muscle-driven, capsule-fixated, dynamic shape-changing IOL with direct ciliary body engagement without zonular or capsular bag intermediary. It's haptic fixated within the capsular rhexis with a dynamic anterior surface, but a static posterior surface, which is available for torque correction or potentially postoperative adjustment as those technologies evolve. So we've
Now, as we move on into the femto cataract movement, Harvey's already talked to us about the Ally system. Just mentioning here that that actually was FDA approved very recently and is one of the most significant FDA approvals, I think, in recent memory. Also recently FDA approved was the Vuity eye drops from Allergan. Now, I think these are interesting in our refractive surgery space because technically, they're kind of competing with refractive surgery on presbyopia. you can see here this post on LinkedIn was by Dr. Christy Gwynn, which is a lady on our medical advisory board for Cookie Magazine. But again, she's an optometrist and she's very excited about the approval of Vuity. You know, potentially these could be prescribed in some countries by optometrists. Doesn't require refractive surgery, obviously, and it allows the pupil to constrict via pilocarpine. So a fairly simple solution for presbyopia correction. Other challenges to refractive surgery include orthokeratology. We recently have the Johnson & Johnson Vision FDA approval of AccuView Ability. And, you know, I think, again, one could consider that these devices are competing with refractive surgery, but then again, maybe we should all be working together. Here in Vietnam, this is a clinic down in Saigon, and you can see on the top left corner, they're offering LASIK, but then they're also advertising reducing your dependence on glasses or contact lenses without surgery with Ortho-K. So co-management of these issues seems to be part of the future. And in fact, could ophthalmologists and optometrists work together better? Certainly, there are many challenges in front of all of us addressing the myopia epidemic, ophthalmologists under increasing burden to deliver care for baby boomer generation and others. So they need more support from optometrists in many regards. And there's other issues out there, dry eye, co-management of refractive surgery patients, such as, you know, where the optometrist would recommend a patient for refractive surgery, but then get to manage them post-operatively. So there's a win-win out there. And it makes sense that this movement of optometrists and ophthalmologists coming together should happen because currently only 20% of laser vision correction is co-managed with an optometrist in the United States. But at the same time, optometrists are responsible for 85% of primary care eye exams. And so, you know, really without those referrals, you've got major losses in the potential co-management opportunities for LASIK. And, you know, you wonder whether a lot of this LASIK is even going to happen without the optometrists pushing it. Currently in the United States, refractive surgery is only 0.2% in terms of the method of vision correction. So, you know, for all the societies out there, the ASCRS, for example, that really promote refractive surgery, you know, we all get excited for that conference every year, but 0.2%, I mean, that's just a drop in the bucket. Now, we have seen ophthalmology and optometry start to come together further. At the Asia Pacific Academy of Ophthalmology, we were covering major issues there regarding myopia control. Also at the EURETINA meeting, myopia was taking center stage. So both in terms of overall ophthalmology and retina, myopia is increasingly an important topic, and obviously optometrists are very important in that scenario. The total global ophthalmic surgical market worldwide, you can see here refractive is, again, only 3.5%. And yet, in terms of market expansion, myopia looks like the greatest market expander, followed by presbyopia and dry eye. So again, if surgeons and optometrists can find ways to work together, it seems like these areas can be tapped a lot stronger. Now back to refractive surgery. We've heard a lot about lenticule extraction this evening, so I'm just going to do a quick comparison of these. Smile by Zeiss has the largest number of surgeons, procedures, and installed lasers performing this type of lenticule extraction worldwide. It's now at 5 million plus procedures worldwide, the most publications on lenticule extraction with Smile. And the Visimax 800 is currently the fastest laser with less than 10 seconds to perform lenticule extraction. Out there in the future, hyperopia also is there with a CE mark possible very soon. If we look at the Schwind Atos device, Dominic von Planta, the Schwinn CFO, emailed me just within the last week saying that, there are 3 real reasons that the Atos could be more optimal than Smile, including the fact that it's got eye tracking guided centration, eye registration from diagnostic images, and there's no minimum lenticule thickness with no lenticule side cut and a progressive transition zone. Anyone interested in this presentation, I'm happy to email it to them to cover some of these other points. Clear by Zemer is also another obvious contender, and I'm going to have Jode Mehta here explain a little bit about that.
Offers a few advantages over other laser systems. One of the nice things is that you can actually move the lenticule and help you with centration after the docking has basically occurred, which is a big advantage because we know that during lenticle extraction, it is important to get the accuracy of the lenticule in the right position on the visual axis. The docking with the Zemer system is in the same handpiece that we basically use for LASIK, so it's a flat applanating system. There's a lot of software manipulation that can be done with the Zemer system, so we can make different tunnels. You can use 2 tunnels, you can use 1 tunnel, and you can make the tunnels at any size you want. This may be important in the future when we're thinking about doing toric and astigmatic corrections where we can alter the tunnel length. The advantage of also being able to make 2 tunnels is that for less experienced surgeons who are new to lenticle extraction, it will help them remove the lenticule from the eye itself. So this can all be tweaked during basically the software when people are undergoing the surgical procedure itself. For more experienced surgeons, they may find it easier to just use 1 incision, which is what I currently basically use, and also it allows you to adjust the incision size so you can reduce the amount of surgically induced astigmatism, and we can basically improve the biomechanical effects on the cornea by making our vertical incision much smaller. Offers a few advantages.
Well, LASIK is still a market leader in the refractive space, and I just want to bring up the point about microkeratomes versus femtoseconds for a moment, because we're entering an era of massive inflation in the United States. It is now in bear market territory. So would it be worth revisiting the issue of microkeratomes versus femtosecond lasers? Rod Ross, the CEO of Medlogics, which is a microkeratome manufacturer, suggests that even microkeratomes can provide faster visual recovery. They make for an efficient procedure. And of course, there's a lower cost to patient surgeon, with the femtosecond laser costing a surgeon several $100,000 to buy and about $60,000 a year for a service agreement. So again, with the economics of the world moving forward, at least globally, certain developing markets, certain nations around the world, they may still have a reason to exist. We've seen since 2007, LASIK volume has dipped. I don't have the numbers for 2021, but again, if LASIK was more affordable, would the numbers be higher than they are today? Worldwide, just to note for a moment that it's interesting that the United States and Western Europe, of course, they're still a powerhouse. India, where I just attended the All India Ophthalmological Society meeting a few weeks back, has huge procedure volume by region, but only comprises 3.2% revenue by region. So, if we think that the rest of the world is going to save us in terms of the refractive space, we may have to think again. Of course, Zeiss has had a lot of SMILE success in places like China, but overall, we still may need to do things in terms of refractive surgery, whether to make it more affordable, whether to innovate, but to keep pushing it out there in the world a bit further. One other interesting issue that's on a tangent at the moment, read this article last year, dominant eye surgery chain LASIK Plus put profits over patient care, some doctors say. Now, this article raises an interesting issue regarding corporate American chains. And, really, what safely could an American surgeon handle in terms of LASIK per day? Is 60 eyes a day safe? Is fewer safe? For these patients, are they able to counsel correctly? Some centers had high patient enrollment rates, as high as 95% potentially. And we know that thin corneas, dry eye, et cetera, which should make some patients unsuitable for LASIK. So what's really going on here with LASIK chains? Does the mysterious 100 eye club exist? In other words, doctors who can serve 100 patients a day in terms of LASIK. We know in places like India, cataract surgery happens very quickly at high volume, but it's a different culture than in America. So is profit over patient care happening? You know, I would ask the Gerso panel later if some of this is true. Does this happen in other parts of the world? Does it happen in your part of the world? And I'm really curious whether the life of a LASIK surgeon could be something like that of a sweatshop worker at times. You know better than I do. Now, what I haven't covered here include phakic IOLs, wavefront versus topographic, and lots of other things, but we'll have to save that for another time. I would mention, since we talked about ophthalmology and optometry, that we are having a conference August 20th to 21st physically in Da Nang, Vietnam, here at the 4 Points by Sheraton. And we're going to be launching Mice TV for the globe. This is going to be, as I call it, the way ESPN Sports Center might cover ophthalmology. So very dynamic way to cover a conference for the globe. We're going to have an ophthalmology and optometry mixed exhibition space. So really trying to help these two fields come together, especially because in Vietnam, the optometry market is very young. They really started graduating optometrists only a few years back. And so perhaps there's co-management possibilities here. But certainly the entire community needs to rise for things like the myopia epidemic to recede. You're welcome to visit MediaMice.com/expo to register, and it is free to attend physically. So come on out, have a nice vacation in Da Nang, and we'll see you here. And if you're interested in that fire-breathing dragon at the beginning of the presentation, I've got a little video to share with you here.
What is this bridge? This is the Dragon Bridge in Da Nang, Vietnam, and it literally breathes fire. And I am on fire to invite you to our home for our second annual Cake and Pie Expo.
Feel free to learn more about that at our website. Until then, I hope to see you at the 4 Points by Sheraton, and back to you, Detlef. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm really sad that we run a little bit out of time, and perhaps we can discuss a little bit later, especially about your question regarding the 100 patients per day. So, Ahmed, are you sharing your screen now with us?
I think you can play this presentation from your side.
Hello, this is Ahmed Assaf. I'm a professor of ophthalmology in Ain Shams University, phaco-refractive consultant and shareholder at Watani Eye Hospital, Cairo, Egypt. I would like to thank the organizing committee for their invitation. I'm privileged to be part of this meeting. As you know, phakic lens is a good option for correction of high and moderate myopia. And if this myopia is associated with significant component of corneal astigmatism, then we can implant the phakic toric lens to correct compound myopia and astigmatism. However, sometimes we cannot get the precise refractive results as we used to get with the laser vision correction, simply because of misplacement of the ink marks preoperatively, or sometimes the ink marks that mark the implantation axis for the phakic toric lens are thick and diffuse, making the precision for implantation of the phakic toric lens less than optimum, and this will affect the refractive results after implantation of the phakic toric lens. As you know, 10 degrees of misalignment will cause 1/3 reduction of the astigmatic correction of these lenses, and 30% of misalignment will cause or will negate the astigmatic correction of these lenses, and even might induce more astigmatism if the misalignment is beyond the 30 degrees. So the digital markers intraoperatively play an important role for precision in placement of refractive of toric phakic lens intraoperatively. However, in many cases we cannot place the phakic toric lens in the exact location as we want, simply because of the variation in the anatomy of the sulcus in some eyes. Again, the posterior chamber phakic toric lens stability is very much dependable on the sizing of the lens, and undersizing of the lens will cause yearly post-op rotation, and this will compromise the refractive results with these lenses. Other issues with the phakic toric lenses is the fact that the phakic IOL, especially those with high spherical power correction, usually have smaller effective optic zone, and this might cause nighttime dysphotopsis in eyes with large mesopic pupil. Again, during calculation of the refractive power of this lens, the surgical-induced astigmatism of the main incision is not taken into account. And the logistics for manufacturing and shipping of this lens might take several weeks, sometimes months in my area, especially after the coronavirus era, because of the limited supply of these lenses by the manufacturer. And finally, we might face post-op ametropia, which may require application of suction ring on the eye after phakic toric lens implantation to correct the post-op ametropia by femtosecond LASIK. So my preferred approach for correction of compound high myopia and astigmatism is the two-step approach, or the bioptics, which simply is composed of two steps. Step 1, which is flap laser flap cut, femtosecond laser flap cut without flap lift, and then the patient is transferred immediately to the surgical room for spherical phakic IOL implantation. Then step 2, which might be 2 weeks later after the step 1, the patient is brought back again to the LASIK room for flap lifting and excimer laser firing. Again, this is step 1 in the LASIK room, which is femtosecond laser flap cut without flap lifting, just leave everything as it is. Then the patient is transferred in the same day to the OR for phakic IOL implantation, spherical phakic IOL implantation. There is no cylindrical component in this phakic lens, and this phakic lens could be posterior chamber phakic lens or iris claw phakic lens according to the surgeon preference. You can see this is the laser marks, the femtosecond laser marks of the flap cut. However, the cornea crystal clear because I didn't elevate the flap after creation of the cut. Step 2, which is 2 weeks later or maybe more, the patient is brought back to the LASIK room for flap lifting and excimer laser firing to correct residual post-op spherical error in conjunction with the astigmatic error. How much time should intervene between the step 1 and step 2? Minimum 2 weeks, maybe 2 months or maybe more, but the minimum is 2 weeks to allow for clearance of dehydration, stromal hydration at the site of the main incision after implantation of the phakic lens, and to allow or to give some time for the cornea for tissue remodeling. And as you can see, we compared the preoperative corneal astigmatism before phakic IOL implantation with the postoperative corneal astigmatism 2 weeks later, and you can see that the corneal astigmatism before and after phakic lens implantation, 2 weeks after phakic lens implantation, showed no statistical significant difference regards the amount of corneal astigmatism as well as the axis. So the minimum of 2 weeks should intervene between the phakic IOL implantation and laser vision correction to correct residual astigmatism. To assess the refractive outcomes of bioptics, my colleagues and I conducted a study that was presented at the Winter ECRS 2022. We aim to compare the refractive outcomes of phakic toric IOL implantation with the bioptics to manage myopia and astigmatism. We included eyes of moderate to severe myopia of more than 7 diopters with astigmatism of more than 1 diopter. And we excluded eyes with irregular corneal astigmatism or eyes with compromised corneal endothelium. We divided the total cohort into 2 groups. Group A, which was the phakic toric IOL, and group B was the bioptics group. The bioptics group was subjected to two-step procedure, as I mentioned before. First step was flap creation without lifting, and the flap thickness was 100 microns, followed by phakic spherical lens implantation, which could be posterior chamber phakic lens or iris claw lens. 2 weeks later, the patient was subjected to flap lift and excimer laser firing to correct residual post-op sphere and cylinder. We followed the patient up to 8 weeks after the surgery, and we included 52 eyes in the bioptics groups compared to 34 eyes in the phakic toric group. And as you can see, 96% of the eyes in the bioptics group achieve refractive cylinder of 0.5 diopters or less, compared to the phakic toric group, which was 29%. So the precision with the bioptics was in correction of astigmatism was much higher compared to the phakic toric group. And this double angle plot shows the post-op refractive astigmatism of the phakic toric group compared to the bioptics group, and you can see the refractive astigmatism in the bioptics group was significantly lower compared to the phakic toric group, and you can see the standard deviation even with the bioptics group was much less compared to the phakic toric group. And this is the prediction error with the bioptics, which was significantly lower compared to the phakic toric group, means more precision and more consistency with the bioptics compared to the phakic toric group. Finally, this is one example for the eyes in the bioptics group. This eye was implanted with the iris claw lens, and you can see this is the peripheral iridectomy, and this is the axial map after laser vision correction with large optic zone. And finally, we achieved 0 cylinder refractive cylinder after the laser vision correction and phakic lens implantation. We were too much concerned about the induction of the higher order aberration at the level of the cornea after laser vision correction. And as you can see, the amount of higher order aberrations that includes the coma, trefoil, and spherical aberrations were within the normal range with the bioptics group because of the amount of laser vision correction to correct astigmatism, and myopia was not that high to induce higher order aberrations at the level of the cornea. So to compare between both procedures to correct compound myopia and astigmatism, the phakic toric is just one-step procedure compared to the two-step procedure with the bioptics. However, with the bioptics, we achieve more accuracy and more precision compared to the phakic toric group. And for regards the post-operative ametropia, we can simply, with the bioptics group, just lift the flap and do the excimer laser to correct any potential ametropia, while with the phakic toric group, we have to wait 2 months until we are able to apply the suction ring and create a flap for the LASIK procedure, or we might resort to surface ablation, which is not that accurate for astigmatic correction compared to the LASIK. Regards the logistics, the delivery and shipment of the phakic toric group might take several weeks or months. However, with the bioptics group, we can correct myopia and astigmatism in a time frame of 2 weeks. And regards the financial cost, the bioptics is somehow higher compared to the phakic toric group, but the price difference is marginal and can be neglected. Regards the visual quality, with the bioptics, we could achieve better visual quality compared to the phakic group because we can induce laser vision correction with larger optic zone to accommodate large mesopic pupil, which was not the case with the phakic toric group. Dry eye is more prevalent with the bioptics group. However, the difference is not clinically significant. So in conclusion, we can conclude that bioptics might result in more precise refractive outcomes compared to the phakic toric IOL implantation for compound myopia and astigmatism. Flap creation by the femtosecond laser allows for flap lifting later on, even if the flap was not lifted during the primary procedure, 2 weeks or 2 months or maybe more. And we still have the advantage of being able to correct any future ametropia by just flap lifting after the bioptics. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the excellent presentation, Ahmed.
Thank you, Magda. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
I start now with the first question. Now the ICL recently are available with the astigmatism correction for all moderate astigmatism. How do you proceed in this patient? Do you even in this patient in which you could correct the astigmatism and aspheric with the ICL implantation perform the LASIK flap on the first day in the one step?
For the mild and moderate myopia, I usually resort to toric phakic lens, but in extreme cases of myopia and high astigmatism, I'm expecting some ametropia after the toric phakic IOL implantation. That's why I prefer the bioptics route. But as you mentioned, thank you for your question, by the way, it's very, very to the point. In cases of moderate myopia and astigmatism, definitely my first choice would be the phakic toric lens, but I resolve these bioptics for extreme myopia and high astigmatism.
Thank you for your answer. Other question, please?
Ahmed, could you just focus once again on why do you make the LASIK flap, you don't lift it, and then you have two procedures afterwards? Why don't you combine it in one procedure, the LASIK procedure after the ICL implantation?
Yes, a good question. Because we might have some ametropic surprise regarding the spherical component after the phakic lens implantation. So simply, if we go with as you suggest, by doing the LASIK flap, then the patient would be implanted with the phakic spherical IOL, and then bring the patient back again to the LASIK room in the same day. I would think it would be too much exhausting for the cornea, because we have to close the corneal incision by stromal hydration after a phakic lens implantation, and the cornea is not in the normal state. So this is what do you mean, or what do you mean that?
No, I understood that you do the LASIK flap, then
yes.
Sometimes later you do the ICL implantation, and then you wait, and then you do the flap lifting and the ablation of the remaining refractive error.
Yeah.
But why do you make the first step? I don't got that.
Yes.
The first step, you only perform the LASIK flap without lifting it.
Yes, I'm just preparing the eye for excimer laser firing without applying suction ring. I need virgin eye, so I'm able to apply the suction ring of the 52-second laser platform to create the flap cut without flap lifting. So at any time after implantation of the phakic lens, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm able to correct any residual ametropia without applying. I don't need to apply suction ring anymore, especially in these eyes, the corneal incision has not healed completely. So I'm not able to apply suction ring. So I can just do the laser firing anytime after the procedure.
So you're afraid that there could be a problem due to the suction with the primary incision, okay.
Exactly, so in this way, I have to wait 2 months to do the bioptics in the traditional way. So this is some sort of reverse bioptics.
So safety reasons. Safety is always important, yes.
Yeah,
great presentation.
To wait until the refraction is stable. I think the 2 months are important as well, to wait until the refraction is stable.
Yes, we can do it. Sometimes I do this maneuver 2 weeks because some patients are traveling abroad and they cannot wait too much. But it has an advantage because one of the patients, I did this maneuver after 2 weeks, and then the patient come back after 6 months with some residual myopia. So I just flap lift, do the laser for 0.75 diopters of myopia, and then everything goes back to normal, and the patient is still happy with the 6/6 vision or 20/20 vision.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So
but this procedure is only for cornea that it looks normal. It's not for keratoconus, by the way. So in this study, for example, we excluded eyes with irregular stigmatism. So you cannot do this maneuver for eyes that it looks full flush keratoconus or suspicious cornea in any way. You cannot touch this cornea by the laser. So if there is, you have a symmetrical bow tie and everything looks fine, and the cornea thickness looks normal, so you are able to do a LASIK flap without harming or jeopardizing the corneal biomechanics, then you can do this procedure. Otherwise, if the cornea looks suspicious, definitely I would go for phakic toric lens. Whatever, even if there is suspected ametropia after the procedure, I will tell the patient that I'm trying to correct as much as I can of the refractive error, but you might have some spectacles, especially in the night for driving, for example. So suppose that we have some inferior stiffening in the cornea and the cornea looks somehow suspicious to me, I would never do the LASIK flap in these corneas.
Yes, great. So yeah, perhaps we can just focus on one question before we have to finish our meeting. So what Matt asked was a 100 patients per day question. I think there are centers in the world like that, and I think they have also high quality if they have a good quality management and if they have enough optometrists to deal with the patient before and after the procedures. I think the procedures are, they can do it, but only if you do focus only on surgery. What is the opinion of the panel?
Just to interject a moment, there was an interesting point in the article that mentioned that higher volume surgeons in some cases have a better safety record. So perhaps it is co-management. In other words, you have more service providers around that enable that rate of LASIK to take place. So maybe it's altogether easier, not easier, but more efficient in some cases.
From my point of view, I think it's very boring if you do very often days where you do 100 LASIK patients. It's just like, you know, just like a robot. It's not the way I would like it for a long period, I think.
Good point.
Yeah.
What do you think is a comfortable number, Detlef?
What do you mean? Sorry.
What do you think is a comfortable number of LASIK patients to serve for a typical surgeon?
Very difficult question because I think it really depends on the surrounding and on the team. I think for a normal surgeon who is used to do surgery and do also high volume cataract surgeon, you know, it's 20 to 30 is no problem. Yeah. But I think above that, yeah, I think above that it could be disturbing for me. But yeah, you know, everybody's different, huh?
20 or
I think it's
40
very much
eyes, 20 or 40 eyes, not patients. Or how many?
Yeah, but LASIK, you know, LASIK is mainly bilateral. So I think, yeah, I think 20 for LASIK shouldn't be any problem at all. Yeah.
Yes.
I think this is dependable on the geographical distribution, because in my area, the ratio between LASIK and cataract surgery is 1:1. So LASIK is very popular here in my area because many people does not like glasses. But this is the culture in the Middle East. Maybe in Europe it's something different. Maybe in Europe LASIK or refractive surgery is not that prevalent compared to the Middle East. Here, young people as well as old people does not like glasses. So the refractive surgery, for example, the LASIK compared to the cataract surgery is 1:1. Every one cataract surgery procedure has alternative one LASIK procedure in the other room.
Very interesting. Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, there's one question to Matt. Do you know if the presbyopic treatment drops are available in India? Was a question from the audience.
When I was at the AIOC, I didn't see any evidence of that. I didn't look at it in particular, but I just did some looking online. And again, there doesn't seem to be the case. They were approved late last year in the US, and it usually takes a while for approvals to kind of make their way out into Asia. So I would suspect not too distant in the future, but probably not yet.
Okay.
I'd like to ask a question about the VOT eye drops. Have you heard any side effects regarding the headache or diminution of vision at night with these eye drops? Have you, any one of the panelists heard about this side effect?
I haven't heard about that, and I haven't heard also nothing from our colleagues in the US who are really keen on this new treatment option, that there are any side effects that are of any importance.
Okay. And I'd like the comment on Matt's presentation, because he mentioned that maybe VOT can compete with a refractive surgery for presbyopia correction. I think it's not competing, but it's complementary, because this eye drops definitely has a market share. Sometimes we face patients that in the early 40s, those patients are emmetropic. They don't use the glasses for distance. They don't use glasses for watching the TV or driving, but they are frustrated by the computer or seeing the mobile phones and they have to put reading glasses for this new work. So I think this is where the eye drops should be. Those patients are emmetropic, they don't have cataract, they don't have refractive error, just presbyopia, and I think these eye drops can fill the gap, because sometimes we can do nothing for our patients. But if I have these eye drops in my practice, and I wish I have it in the near future, I would definitely go for these eye drops for my patients.
Yeah, I think this is a very good comment. And for me to start with this drops, I would also go exactly for this group of patients. Yes, definitely.
Those are great points. And, you know, it seems just the constriction using pilocarpine, you know, it certainly doesn't seem as technologically advanced as these IOLs with all these, you know, diffractive rings or refractive or what have you. So, you know, there must be some limitations technologically to that as well.
Great. Yes, I think we have to stop, and I'm always very happy when I learn something in these meetings. And what I really learned today is to have a different view on the children, on the development of myopia. And I really learned from Cheryl that I should focus more on treating them, because myopia will always progress when we find the children. And so I think we don't treat them as good as we could. So we should always start and focus on preventing myopia much more. That's something I learned, and I will really try to get this new view into my daily practice. Okay, well, Magda, any comments?
Yes, I learned a lot. It was a pleasure to be a part of this distinguished faculty. And it was, as you said, it was as well very pleasant. And thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you to our sponsors again. Thank you to Hallmark for the organization, to all the panel. And yeah, I hope you will enjoy your day now. And I hope to see you all soon again here.
Thank you, Detlef, for the invitation. And I'm very privileged to be here in this meeting.
And I guess you have to work today, huh?
Yes,
you're not free.
I have a lot of patients with me.
Be happy.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Everybody.